right. Hello, and welcome to, I think, my first actual Twitch stream in a very long time. I don't think I've actually streamed on Twitch since like July. But I recently moved my sim rig setup from one room to another to more of a dedicated room, and I finally think I'm set up in the way that I like. Hopefully, all I have to do is make a few more tweaks and I'll be good to go, including the microphone. I'm still not a huge fan of the way the microphone's turned out. I have it set up on like a boom and it's not really doing too well. So I actually bought different sets of microphones and I'm going to be installing those probably in the next week or so. Bunch of updates as far as life and work. We finally took delivery of our 2023 Model X. That was actually back at the end of October, but it has been fantastic. For anyone who doesn't know, I've had two Model Y performances for quite a while, since 2020 and 2021, and we recently traded one of those for a Model X, and we were a bit nervous because of all the stories that folks hear and about the doors and all sorts of stuff, but ours has been absolutely perfect and we are super happy with it. And it has no business being as fast as it is. It's not quite as fast as our Model Y performance, but it's quite fast in its own right. I think like 0.2 seconds slower to 60 or something like that, but it's quite a fun car. So why am I streaming? Well, I'm streaming because of what's on the monitor. Recently I got my hands on Sim Racing Telemetry for Steam. I've had it on my mobile device for quite a while. However, the creators of Sim Racing Telemetry, they have released basically a plugin for Automobilista 2, which is the primary game that I play. And so because of that, now I think I can finally merge extra average sim racing and data discoveries. Data discoveries is a series that I do where I take brand new data sets and I import them into SQL Server, which is my day job, and I build reports out of them in Power BI. Again, part of my day job. Sim racing is just something I am terrible at that I do for fun, and so finally I think I get to put those two things together. Now, the way Sim Racing Telemetry works is it monitors your game for all sorts of stuff like the weather, your times, tire temperatures, tire degradation, engine speed, actual speed, all sorts of telemetry, just like Formula One, let's say. And at the very end of your session, what you get is a CSV file that looks something like, let me see if I can bring it up. Of course, I don't have that open right now, but let's see if I can find it. Data sets, is it this one? Yeah, I think I can find it. Okay, so it looks something like on screen. There we go, something like this. And this is a CSV file known as a comma separated value file. Of course, you see no commas here. This is actually kind of like a tab delimited file where the delimiter between columns is a tab. And so I can take this data, shove it into Power BI, and then out comes some cool reports. Oh, it looks like one of my cars is actually getting a software update, so I'll do that a bit later. So what I hope to get is a file just like this, and if I have some time at the end of my race, I'm gonna actually take the file and import it into Power BI and see if I can build a quick report. Now there's a lot of numbers here that are kind of difficult to understand, and as you can see, this is a huge file. So the folks at Sim Racing Telemetry on Reddit, actually, they hooked me up with this CSV format parser, if you will, or like a how to interpret all the different columns. And hopefully I should be able to interpret that data and shove it into Power BI and build out at least a pretty basic report. And then maybe I'll do another session on data discoveries, which is my other series, and do a full-blown report out of that. But hopefully I get some good data out of this session. I'm going to give it a shot and then see how it goes. And again, this is kind of testing all my new setup. Hopefully everything goes well. Let's head on in to Automobilista. So we're going to be racing at Brands Hatch today. I got the new Formula High Tech add-in on Steam, which has all these cool Formula One cars from the 90s that they did a bunch of weird stuff to, like active suspension, and I can't remember what the other stuff was. But the one I'm racing today is a McLaren MP4 8, which was, I think, a mid-90s car. And I'll be racing that around Brands Hatch. I'm going to try to do a last to first challenge. This is going to be a last to first where basically I pull over right at the start and I let everyone pass, and then I'm going to see how far up the grid order I can get by the end of the race. It's a 15-minute race, very tight racing at Brands Hatch. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so let's hop in. I'm gonna put on some gloves.
P6. Pit window opens after 1 minute 15 minutes. Not got much time to sort this out. The track temp is 36. The air temp is 24 Celsius.
And I will put my keyboard down and hope I don't crash. Oh, wait, no. I actually forgot to set up Sim Racing Telemetry. Let's talk about that while I set it up, because it's an app that you go in and you have quite a few options here. You have to purchase each one of them, but you can use a trial. The one I'm going to pick is Automobilista, and I'm just going to hit record new session and press start. And it's waiting for the connection. As soon as the game starts, it'll start recording, and then I'll be good to go. We'll come back here after we're done.
Sixth place. Get ready, mate.
Okay, I'm gonna pull over right here. Just kind of wait for everyone to go. And now I can go by myself. Let's give it a shot.
Go.
Alright. Gotta get past this truck here. The Copa trucks are just absolutely crazy. And it don't rear end them. Alright, so I think now it's up to me to catch up to my class. Not sure how far ahead they are. Probably quite a bit. Second penalty. Not sure why. Maybe I just like hit someone. Oh, okay. It's kind of weird. Okay. This is not my favorite track.
It was just done a 112.5.
And I'm also not very good at it. At the end, I could just claim I'm just here collecting data. Maybe that will explain my terrible performance. Including that fuel company.
Just sounds horrible. 113.2.
I hate this car. Almost lost it. God, this car just sounds horrible.
Behind is now 6.6 seconds.
Oh, there's some trucks. They're gonna make my life very difficult.
On your right, clear right.
And they're already pitting. Vintage GT as well.
14.3. Track temps.
Far left, clear left. Left side, clear left.
Okay, Andreas. Gaining on the car in front. Gaps now.
I
Right
bet I
side,
am.
clear right.
Oh, hey, is that? I think that's one of mine. Is it not? That was really dumb. That was really dumb.
Your outside track limits there.
Sorry. again, we're just collecting data, right? So it doesn't matter.
Stay right. On your left. Clear left.
I do not need to do that.
Clear left.
Slower car ahead. This guy's their class leader.
Okay.
Right side. Clear right.
Yes, thank you. Oh, that's a Okay.
P2.
Oh, but I bet you everyone else is pitted. I don't want to get too optimistic here. That's my guy.
Right. Clear right. Car
me.
right.
Approaching.
Hold your line. Clear right.
That might be outside track limits.
Yeah.
That's one, mate.
Sorry.
Car right. Clear right.
Alright, here we go. It looks like I'm in first, but I have a 5-second penalty. I wonder if penalties are captured here in Sim Racing
Slower
Telemetry.
cars ahead. The class leaders up here. You're pulling away from the guy behind. The gap's now 1.3 seconds.
On your left.
Oh no.
Hold your
Oh,
line.
yep.
Clear left.
Yeah,
Okay,
one of the
Andreas,
other.
that's half distance. You're looking good for fuel. Your brake temperatures are really high, mate. They're cooking. Mossad is pitting from
Well.
position 5. He should come out just in front of you. You're in the lead. The track temperature is increasing. It's now 42 Celsius.
So part of my new setup is actually this new chair. The chair that comes with the Next Level Racing FGT. Not fantastic. So I had this seat from when I was going to upgrade my prior rig before I even got this rig. And it's not bad. It's pretty comfortable. The only thing is it's a pretty tight space. So, let me stop talking here.
Clear left.
Um,
Car left. Clear left.
This guy out of the way. There we go. Okay. What just happened? So yeah, the
Approaching a
seat
group of slower cars.
that I replaced it with is just a kind of an eBay racing seat. It's pretty comfortable. It's wide, it's spacious, and semi-breathable. I wouldn't know
On your right.
because
Clear right.
I have a pad on it that does this vibration stuff. It's called the Next Level Racing HF8 pad. And what it does is it gives me feedback about the road and engine and gear shifts. I can feel pretty much everything that's going on. So it helps me react a lot better.
Slow car ahead. This guy's their class leader.
You know, doing stuff like that. As I say, it helps me react better than I go off track. But yeah, it's so far it's been pretty good. Happy to report.
All right, Andreas.
Left side. Clear left.
Just 5 minutes left.
Almost
Hold your nerve. We can win this.
Shouldn't I be boxing? Pretty sure I should be boxing right now. Okay.
Well, that was at 115.1. Sector 1 is 0.6 off the pace.
Left side. Clear left. On your left. Clear left.
I am curious to watch this
Clear right.
replay.
Right side.
Oh man, that always happens in the first
Clear right.
corner, huh? Hopefully I don't get another penalty.
Left side. Clear left.
I'm already staring at 5 seconds. So hopefully I don't do anything too dumb. Alright,
Closes in 2 minutes.
I got a box now. I haven't been told to box, but
Car left. Clear left.
I'm pretty certain.
Gap behind's increased to 13 seconds.
Oh no,
Brake temperatures are fine.
barely kept it in there. What I am curious about is the microphone. Is it terrible or not?
DRS. Expect traffic when you exit the pits. We should come out into position 4, right behind Roche.
See how it all goes. Position 4? Oh, my repair. I just completely ruined my race by probably crashing into it.
Pit window closes in 1 minute.
Well, at least someone else pit. I do not think I'll be able to catch anyone, so that's
There's traffic behind, take care. Push, get second place here.
Get second place? I don't know.
Coming up on a slower class car.
5-second penalty. I don't think that's happening. I mean, if I don't completely destroy my race anyway, that's probably bound to happen. Ooh, that's one of mine. Hi. Alright, do your thing, trucks. Hold them up like you hold me up.
E3.
Or not. It's a Formula Vintage and I'm in the grass.
Left side, clear left.
Oh no, man.
That's 2 minutes
Scary
left.
moment.
2 minutes. Alright, Andreas. Pit window's closed.
Can I catch this guy? I don't think so. I don't think I can catch him. There's no way. Catch him and put 5 seconds on him? Oh! Except this Formula Vintage just held me out.
Car left, clear left.
Maybe the other one will too.
On your left, clear left.
Yeah. Okay.
Car left,
Oh, come on!
still there, clear left. On your left.
I did dive bomb him, but also
Nice move,
you
mate.
have to leave in the space.
Coming up on a slower class car.
Again, we're just collecting data, right? That's what we say when
Clear right.
we do stuff incorrectly or have a terrible race. We're just collecting data. Anything above that is a bonus. I could be a team principal. I know all the perfect things to say. No, you forced us into a corner. We're just collecting
Slower
data.
cars, including their class
I got
Right
to
side,
ask
clear
ChatGPT
right.
some good responses or
On your
catchphrases.
left, clear left.
Team principal say. Alright, I got 2 more seconds on this guy. Forward. So that I can actually claim
Left side,
second.
clear left.
Otherwise, I got penalties another way. Mid third. I don't get another penalty then. I think this is the final lap.
Slow cars ahead, including the class leader.
Right side, clear right.
Okay, Andreas, you've got half your fuel left.
First place. What am I supposed to do here? Oh, I think that's the first place car.
Car left,
Oh,
clear left.
oh no.
That's the stuff, we'll have some more of that.
Can I? Was that? That
Car right,
happened?
clear right.
That totally happened. Now it's really weird and now I'm celebrating by almost crashing.
Looks like that was outside track limits.
Yeah, sorry. I'm about to win this race. Okay, so
Slower class car ahead.
can I get 5 seconds on that?
You're leading, one more lap. You're P1. You've just done it, 114.4.
Can I get 5 seconds on this car?
Car right,
On the outside. I think I can get 5 seconds on it. I already seem to have 5 seconds. Maybe if I can maintain that, then even with my penalty, I might be in first. I might be able to say that I wasn't just collecting data. As I crash. It's still last lap. Don't do this. Oh no.
You were out to track limits there.
There's my
Away.
5
Behind us
seconds.
now. 7.4 seconds.
Okay. Might be able to push. Yes.
You're coming up on some slower cars. These guys are busy fighting. They might not notice you.
Oh my god.
Clear left.
I think I did it.
Well done, Andreas.
Thank
Great
you,
win.
bud.
You deserve that
That's a
today.
win. That's a win. Interesting. Alright, we gotta do a cool down and then once we're done with that, let's take a look at the file.
Right side. Clear right.
Oh man, I almost lost it
On your right. Clear right.
there. Why am I still like racing? I guess I can't help it. I've been in survival mode this whole time.
On your right.
Let's see if we have a space in the pit. Okay. Oh, that was.
What's your speed limit in the pits?
So, first and foremost, we're going to save our replay. So, let's grab our keyboard. And we will go to view replay, which doesn't seem to be working. There we go. Then we're going to save it. And now we get to eject. Restart session. So that the sound
Pit window
goes away.
opens after 1 minute. B6,
And
15
there's
minutes.
our
You'll need to get
data.
on with this. The track temp is 36. The air temp is 24 Celsius.
Cheers. Okay, so we have our data. We're going to tell it to stop. And now we have our session, 12:23. There it is right there. So what I'm going to go do is hop over to a different view here so that we can have the camera out of the way. There we go. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to head into that session and we get to see all sorts of cool stuff about the session itself. So we'll see which sectors I was fastest in, probably fastest lap somewhere. Here's my fastest sector 3, it looks like. Sector 1, I never got fastest, I just got a pretty good time. And, or maybe my fastest. So total 14 laps, 30 sec. I started in 32nd and we got all the way to P1. That was great. Then we have a couple charts here that allow us to see our telemetry as well. So that's pretty cool. And then we have our stats. So how do we get this out? Well, I think if I press this button here, which is the share button, then I can export to CSV, or I can share with others as well. I would have to ask Sim Racing Telemetry how that all works. So I'm going to export to CSV, and it's going to ask me where I want to save it. Let's do AMS2, brands, patch, Mclaren MP4. Let's just do MP4 and then today's date, 12/23, and it's going to save it as a CSV file right there. That's pretty cool. And it's saved. Great. So now I get to look at it, and here it is. This is all. Oh no, that's not it. That's totally not it. Let's see. Let's try to save it again, because that'll tell us where it actually is. Seems that I have data in all sorts of different places, which is probably not as practice, but hey, I'm not getting paid for this. Okay, right here. Okay, it looks like I saved it to my external drive, so I'm gonna pull that up. Okay, there we are. So here's the one. I'm gonna open it in Notepad++, and here we have it. It's all of our data with all of our telemetry for 14 laps. Now, something I should mention is that this was probably at the start of the race right here, but something I should mention is the fact that this program, Sim Racing Telemetry, takes a snapshot every 5 seconds of how things are going. So throughout one lap, I'll have however many data points are captured every 5 seconds. So that's always a very interesting thing to keep in mind. All right, now we're gonna see if we can open up Power BI and get some stuff done. All right, so I am going to set up a new report, and right here we're going to import data from Excel. Now, something I like to do, because Microsoft and the way they write their apps, or the way their apps kind of grab the file and take a hold of it, they lock the file up to make sure that no one's making any updates while it's like refreshing or while it's gathering the data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a read-only copy of it, and I'm just going to name it something with like read. What does that allow me to do? Well, that allows me to have the file open here in Notepad++, or technically even in Excel. And I just closed it, of course. So technically I can open it in Excel, and we can also see the telemetry data there. So just in case I need to, I can. Now, normally, well, that was all weird. Normally, what I would do is I would actually import this data into SQL Server, but the purpose of this video is to show that you can just do it with the straight CSV file. The reason I like importing into SQL Server is that I'm much better at writing SQL code than I am at writing DAX, which is the native language for Power BI. So I will do my best here to format the columns in the way that I usually do, but I'm ashamed to say I've been working with Power BI for, it's been 7 years now, and I'm still not that great at DAX. I am always, I'm always Googling, which is absolutely fine. You don't need to be an expert in DAX to use Power BI. Case in point, I've made a career out of Power BI, and I don't know that much DAX. I know enough to get stuff done, but where I really have power, I guess I could say, or where I really have talent, is in SQL Server land. All right, so here's our file. We can immediately see that it recognized that it's a tab delimited file, and it's going to create the data types based on the first 200 rows of data. That's pretty safe, because that means we're collecting data every 5 seconds, so that's a pretty safe bet. So it looks like we can also extract a table using some examples, but I think what I'm gonna do is just load the data in its raw form and see where we land. So I'm gonna load it. Power BI, by the way, while this is loading, I'll mention that Power BI is 100% free. There are many tutorials on how to set up a free account to actually develop with, but you can download Power BI Desktop absolutely free and do exactly what I'm doing right now. Just go to Microsoft or powerbi.microsoft.com and you'll be good to go. Okay, so we still have an empty report, but if you look here on the far right side, what you'll see is our data set. And when we pull that open, we can see all sorts of stuff about it. Lots of information on tires, lots of information on velocity, water pressure, water temperature, world position. So the world position, I'm fairly certain, is so that you can draw diagrams of the track and kind of trace your path along. I'm pretty sure I've seen that on the Sim Racing Telemetry mobile app. So I'm pretty sure that's what the world position is. All right, so let's get some stuff in here. Oh my gosh, I'm anxious to get some data into Power BI. Let's see what it gives us. Okay, so this is our car, which is really good. Let's see if I can get a little bit more comfortable here. I don't know where my mouse is. Oh, there it is. Okay. With the mouse, I'm a lot more comfortable. I still have this like strapped camera, but that's fine. Do we have a mouse? Does my mouse work? Yes, my mouse is working. Okay, so we have our Mclaren MP4. That's great, and we'd be able to, if we had multiple cars, we'd actually be able to filter this. And as you can see, by just dragging, I'll do that again, I'll actually remove everything. You could just drag a field in, and it'll automatically create what it thinks is probably one of the best visuals for it, but you can always change that visual if you'd like. I can set the visual by just clicking on it and then clicking on this drop down, and now you can set it to be anything. In this case, I'm just gonna have it be a card. Does it click? Or is it just that slow? Yeah, so it's kind of slow. I'm gonna go ahead and close Automobilista. Yes. One thing about Power BI, if you decide to do this, is the fact that Power BI is very, very resource intensive. And so what you will get, my computer's kind of slowing down a little bit. This is a fairly powerful machine. It's not extremely powerful. Actually, I'll pull up the settings here if because I can't ever remember them. So I will pull up the settings or the specs of my computer by typing in Sim Rig into the chat here. And yeah, it's so AMD Ryzen 3.9 gigahertz with 64 gigs of RAM. 64 is pretty dang good for Power BI, but it can't possibly run all sorts of stuff like Power BI, Automobilista, and Steam, and all that good stuff at the same time. Power BI basically wants all your memory, and so even though I have 64 gigs of RAM, running both of the things at the same time, I just don't recommend it. Okay, so let's see if we can find a timestamp here. Right, that's what I would want to. Oh, look, a lap number. Lap number is good. I'm pretty sure I saw that here. Okay, so we have our McLaren. Let's make that a little bit smaller in the specs. Oh God, this has the annoying formatting. How do I get the format for this stuff? View, pane switcher. Yeah, always show it. And man, where's the format for this stuff? Oh, right here. Is that how you do it? The format? Why is my mouse like super misbehaving right now? It's my computer or my mouse? I'm not really sure. No, it's the mouse. Okay, so I guess we're doing that. Suggest a type. Okay, here. More options. Where are the more options? There they are. Size and style. I'm gonna make this quite a bit smaller here. So the category label, I'll make 10. And my call out value, that's the huge one, I'm gonna make that 20 here. Okay, and then I actually just need, I guess we can have the category label, that's fine. So to change this car ID or to change what calculation you're doing, I'm just gonna say the first, but the field itself, I'm gonna double click here and just call it vehicle. Just in case you're doing this about something that's not a car, like a motorcycle. Okay, and how many laps? No, this is a sum of how many laps. You can see here that it's actually telling you the sum of all the lap numbers. We don't need that. What we actually want to do is just select lap numbers or see what, for example, our top speed was for each lap. But for now, I'm just going to use this as a selector, so a slicer. And that's going to be changing this into this, which is a slicer here. So I can say from 0 to 13, or if I have the new, oh, I do have the new slicer, which is the button slicer, so I'll switch over to that instead. Or actually, let me just make a copy of that one so we can see all the cool new stuff that the new slicer has, which is this one. So here, I can tell it, because I have 13 laps, I might be able to tell it to give me 13 rows. So I can have like a lap slicer on the right side. Now I'll go to the format, and here in the more options area, I'll be able to see size and style, or actually it's the layout. And I'll tell it, hey, I want 13 rows and I want 1 column. Looks like I'm gonna have to scroll. So I want 2 columns with 7 rows. And now I have a slicer that I can kind of tuck away to the side right here. And so I can say that I want this to be called lap instead of lap num. And technically, if you wanted to, you could still have this slicer where you could say, like, I want to see what happens in lap 1 to 2 and stuff like that. But I really don't need that right now. If you happen to not have the latest update for Power BI, then you can absolutely use this one, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this guy. And that brings back all my laps again. And let's see what other sort of data we can find. Oh, how about my fuel per lap? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and set up a table. That's probably the easiest way you're going to get a hold of all of your data very easily. And when I create brand new reports, I always like to set up a really basic table that shows me all of the data that I would normally see here in this Excel file, but it'll show me all the data points that I actually am interested in a simple Power BI table. So we are going to bring back our car ID, and we're going to bring back our lap number, which is in the L's. I know my ABCs, I promise. Okay, and you can see that when I dragged the lap in, it kind of made what it thought was the best visual. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because I really don't want that anymore. I just want a simple table. And so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the lap number is actually not summarized, because otherwise it's just going to take the math. It's just going to do math for you and say, oh, you had this many. The lap number adds up to this number, which is really, I don't care about that. So I'm going to say, hey, for each lap, this was my car. Now, that's kind of obvious because we already have that up here. So I'm actually going to take that away. But it's good to know that I see all 13 laps here. But before I do, I'm going to see if I can actually copy this visual and turn it into another one and have that be, I think I saw the track ID there instead. So I'm going to try to see if I can replace this with the track instead. To do that, I'm just going to force this to be track. There we go. Okay, so we have Brands Hatch. The reason you see that in parentheses is usually probably the layout. I haven't done a lot of these, but I assume that what's in the parentheses is usually which layout of the track you're working with. So I assume that's what that is. Okay, any other interesting stuff? Lap times. Was my lap time invalid? Can I drag that in? And can I not summarize that? It looks like my lap time was invalid right here. Ooh, that's really nice. Okay, so I'm going to remove the car, but we can see here that my lap 1 or lap 0, I had an invalid lap. I guess that makes sense because we were just starting. That was the formation lap probably. Lap flag. That's interesting as well. I don't know what that is. Looks like that's the same value as lap time invalid, so I'm just going to go away, have that go away. Okay, so here we can also say for gear. Now, when I add the gear, it's just going to be like gear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I say what was my minimum gear, so right click on sum of gear and make it my minimum, gear 0, I guess. And then also I'm going to add gear again and say maximum. It should be 6. But you can see here that there were some laps that I never went to 6 gear. That's interesting because it means I'm not very consistent. Here's where I can start using this sort of data to help me get better, or at least get marginally good at sim racing. This is the type of stuff that I need to know. Hey dude, you are not going into 6 gear some laps. Does that mean I'm incorrectly not shifting up and not using the maximum power of my car? Or does it mean this is a track that I need to stay in 5th gear and never even go into 6? That's definitely an interesting position that it puts me in. All right, so I'm looking for something like position, so I can see what place I was in. Race position. I'm going to drag that in as well, and I'm going to say don't summarize. Okay, so we can see that I have multiple positions. So -1, I can only assume, because of my experience in data itself, I can only assume that -1, when it comes to this data, again, I haven't even looked at what I should have looked at, which is this, the CSV format key from the Sim Racing Telemetry group. I haven't even looked at it yet, and I can already start telling a couple of things about the way that the data is formatted, or the way the data is produced. So this is something I'll definitely have to look at. Valid data 1 or 0, no valid rows can be ignored. That's interesting. So maybe I should put a slicer here that says only look at the ones that are set to 1. Yeah, so valid data equals 1. That's very interesting to know. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that filter right now. So I'm only looking at valid data. So the way I'm going to do that is actually using the old style slicer. You can see when I dragged it into this empty space, it just gave me this. I really don't care for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the visual to be a slicer again. And that'll allow me to, now you can leave it like this, but I'd rather have it as kind of like a drop down. So what I'm going to say is I want your formatting options, and I want more options. And now the size and style, no, the slicer settings I'm going to use is a drop down, and that'll change it to be 1 or 0. And I also want to make sure that I allow both to be selected, but using the select all as well. So if I only wanted one lap to be selected at one time, then I would use the single select, but here I'm going to use the multi-select. So what does that mean? It means I'm allowed to select both. You can see here that laps 0 and 13 were both invalid laps. -1, -1, -1, all over the place. Why? Because they were the formation lap and the cooldown lap. None of the telemetry that we're gathering really matters when it comes to those. They weren't an official race lap, it seems. Let me make sure I'm not just like speculating. We always export all the telemetry bins of the laps, including invalid bins. When a row is not valid, all game-related fields are set to -1. So basically, they're just telling you, like, hey, don't consider it useful in any way when the valid bin is not 1. So I'm going to rename this slicer here. I'm just going to call it is lap valid. Now, if I'm starting to present this and I show it to someone, they're not really going to easily know what 1 and 0 means. So technically, I could go into Power Query or use DAX here to build a custom column. And basically, I'm just going to build a custom column on this, and I'm going to say, hey, when it's 1, then it's yes. When it's not, then it's 0. So I'm going to go back here and search for my valid column. I could have done it there, but I want to show you both ways just in case. So I'm going to look for my valid. I can't do my ABCs today. There we are. So I'm going to right click on valid bin, and I'm going to create a column, new column. And I'm going to call it is lap valid equals, and I'm going to say if valid bin equals 0, then yes, otherwise no. No, that's wrong. If it's 1, then yes, otherwise no. So I'm going to add some comments here. I'm going to say if valid bin is 1, then yes, otherwise no. And close my comments. Let's do the full word yes and no here, just in case. Now I'm going to press the check mark or just press enter. And now I have an is valid lap, and I'm going to start naming all of my flags. Is something, is, I don't know, is car crashed, is top, did reach top gear in a lap, right? That sort of thing. So I'm waiting for it to generate, and it just did. So let's go ahead and add our is column to the grid right next to the lap time invalid. Is in the eyes. There we go. Is lap valid? Yes. Why? Because we have this set to 1. As soon as we add the zeros, look, we have a no now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to replace this with that is lap valid column that we just created. Okay, that didn't go right. Let's try that again. I do not like this new formatter. So I'm just going to say is lap valid. There it is. Now, there we go. I only want valid laps. That's super cool. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the lap time invalid because we have kind of a bit better indicator here that's a little bit more user friendly. So lap number, and then we're going to say is lap valid, is lap valid. And what I do to rename those is I just double click. So minimum gear, let's rename all of them. Maximum gear and position. Now we can see here that lap number 0 has a ton of positions. Why? Because there is a one value here for each lap and each minimum gear and each maximum gear, but the minimum and maximum gears are always aggregated. So you're only ever going to see one record. Again, I'm going to go ahead and remove position so you can see now we have only one record per lap. And maybe we want to keep it this way because when I start adding other fields, again, like position, you see this stuff grow. If the sum of positions, that's fine. Maybe if I add something like minimum position, I can say, hey, the highest position I was in was second here, first here. I don't know why 0 is here. That's a bit of a weird one. Maximum position, that's weird as well. So I get it. Okay, so there's a difference between track position and race position, and maybe that's something I can talk to the folks at Sim Racing Telemetry about. I don't know if you noticed in my race, but there were a ton of different classes in the race. So the fact that there were so many classes means the maximum position that I could ever get in my race was 6th. So here we actually have 0 is 1. So if I actually want to determine what these race positions are, I'm going to actually make a new column that's called race position friendly. Race position friendly. And I'm going to call that, I'm going to just say it equals to race position plus 1. And then I'll add that back in. And now we can see that if I do race position friendly, let's see, minimum of race position. Yep, there we go. So I'm going to say minimum race position. Okay. So here we can see that on lap 0 or 1, I was actually in 6th place. Why only 6 if there were 32 racers in their thing? Well, it's because this is a multi-class race, and one of the things about Automobilista 2, which is a bit different than other games, especially things like Assetto Corsa Competizione and Assetto Corsa. Oh, Assetto Corsa I think does this too, but you can have multi-class races here in AMS2. What does that mean? That means that in my class, I was 6th, but overall, I was 32nd. I don't think they have that in their system, so I'm going to see if I can talk to them and give them some feedback about that, because that's probably important for them to know that they need a track position as well. Let me just be a good noodle here and search for position. No, yeah, there's nothing other than the race position and the race position friendly, which I created. So that's definitely something they need to know. Now, because of the fact that I created this friendly position, I'm going to go ahead and remove this minimum race position here. There we go. So now I just did that. And we have the minimum race position I was in with each lap. So this is actually a really good one for me to create a graph. So I'm going to create a graph that shows the lap number and then which race position I was in. So how do I do that? Well, I just make this table a little bit smaller. And then I go back over here and I bring in my lap again. So I'm going to search for lap. Lap number, right? Lap number, there it is right here. And then I'm going to make this a line graph right here, line chart. So for each lap, which is, I have to put it in my x-axis, my lap number, lap, I'm just going to rename that lap. And now for the y-axis, I'm going to say race position. So I'm going to type in race position friendly and plop that right into the y-axis. So here we go. You can see that I was, oh, that's a lot, sorry. Yep, so I right click here and I just say the minimum race position. So you can see that over time, I went from 6th to 1st throughout the race. That's really, really good. So, I mean, it's not good as far as me, but it's really, really cool that we can see this visually and see how long it took us to get to 1st place. So, I'm going to do a couple things here to format this graph. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, I can't get used to the way Power BI is now with this, but I'm going to add some data labels. That makes it a little bit easier for us to see everything. We can also add a trend line that shows, hey, here is the trend of how our race went. We steadily went up positions. It's kind of weird because it looks like we're doing something negative when we're really doing something positive. So my question here is, can I flip this y-axis? Yes, I can. It's usually, so I went over here to the options and I went to the y-axis and said invert range. Now what this allows us to do is it allows us to, well, my light just went on, which is really weird. It allows us to see that we actually went up in position rather than down. With race data, probably lower is not better, right? The higher the RPM, low lap times is also good, so we might have to invert that as well. So I'm gonna make this chart a little bit smaller here. We're gonna focus on this trend line and see if we can find it so that we can make it a little bit less crazy here. Maybe a different color, like this light red. That's good. Super. There's like dogs fighting outside, it seems. We're gonna make the transparency maybe something like 20 or 50. That way we can see like a hint of the line of the trend, but not something full. Okay, so race position by lap. See, our titles get auto generated, which is pretty cool. They're auto generated by the names you give your columns, so you can easily see that. Okay, so now we have a slicer. Let's give it a background and let's start making this report a little bit nicer to look at, because right now it's just looking a little rough around the edges. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this and we're going to say more options, and then we are going to say, God, why is I'm looking for an option called effects and I just don't see it. I think it's because it's part of this whole new slicer thing. Let me go ahead and make these rounded rectangles so it looks kind of nice and even. I'm gonna make sure the rounded corners are something like 15, like not too rounded, but still pretty rounded. And then the buttons, border, the fill. Maybe I can do some fill. Is it like the default black? Okay, that's all right. We can leave that way because otherwise we're just gonna get into a like into the weeds, and I don't want to do that too much. All right, I'm gonna give it a little bit of a background. So here we can see the background, and I'm gonna give it a visual border that's also the same color that we just used. And I'm gonna make that visual border rounded off. So here, now we have a nice looking visual, and I'm gonna do that for every single visual that we have. I like making visuals different colors. Why? Because then it gives me the ability to kind of play a little bit of Tetris with the shapes or with the visuals in the report, and I can get the spacing to look nice. So this one too, I'm gonna give it a background of gray and a visual border, and then get the rounded pixels. I think I did 10 for everything, so I'll do 10 for this one as well. There we are. Okay, now this one I left the visual border black, it seems, so we're gonna turn that gray. There we go. So this looks like it has a scroll bar. I'm gonna fix that and just elongate it a little bit, and I'll make it a little bit smaller here. And now we can see race position by lap, and now we can take a look at the spacing and fix the spacing a little bit. So I'm gonna do a couple more visuals here, just as part of an initial demo, because I've been on for a little while here and I am starting to get hungry. I'm gonna go make a pizza with my uni oven for myself and my daughter and my wife. So let's I'm starting to get a little hungry and probably can't think that well. So I'm gonna say is lap valid to rename it. There we go. And then should we do the same style gray here? No. Here's what we should do though. We should add a shape to the very top of this. So we're gonna say we're gonna add a shape like this, and we're gonna put it all across the top here. There we are. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna say the shape style rounded top right corner. That's an interesting thing to do. I didn't realize that was a thing. I'm gonna say 0 on that. Oh wow, that's really weird that they specifically have a rounded top right corner percentage marker there. I've never really seen that. Okay, so now we have our shape. And let's see if we can make it the fill in the border the same exact color. So the color, I guess we'll keep that. We'll make the border the same color, and the transparency, let's set it to like 80. And same for this, 80. Why? Because we want this to show. But the reality is we actually don't need that. To make these visuals show, we don't need that at all. What we do is we go to View, and then we say Selection. And when you view the selection, you can see, I'm going to go ahead and rename this shape to be the banner. And then I'm going to move it down below. And anything, it's kind of like Adobe, for those of you who are familiar with Adobe or any paint program, the higher you put it, the higher the layer is. So I just have to make sure that these cards are above this banner, and I'll be okay. So this, and also this card here, which should be this, and you can just click on them to see what they are. So card, I'm going to put both the cards above the banner, and also the race position by lap. That doesn't really matter because this isn't below. These aren't interacting. They're just next to each other. So the one that we actually want is this slicer here. We want it above the banner as well. Now, is lap valid is what we want to name this. We want to name this one. We want to say track card. That way I know what it contains and also what type of visual it is. So track card. And now we can change the style of these a little bit and change this style too, and just maybe turn off the background. We're gonna go ahead and turn off the background here for this one. I think you do that in the size and style. Yeah, turn off the background. That's actually not too great. So I'm gonna keep the background and add a visual border that's also white and give it rounded edges, just to have be the same exact style as everything else. So we'll just add a little bit of a visual tweak there. These guys I'm actually gonna move a little bit because I'm gonna put the Automobilista logo on here, and I hope those folks are okay with it. Same goes for Sim Racing Telemetry. I'm just gonna go ahead and save my file. That would be very not smart of me not to save my file. So I'm gonna call this SRT for Sim Racing Telemetry, and I'm gonna say it is Mclaren MP4 -8 at what was this, Brands Hatch. Okay, let's save that just so we have it. Then we're just gonna go on the interwebs and look for some logos. So here's the Sim Racing Telemetry logo. Thanks, guys. Save image as, and I'm gonna go ahead and save it as SRT logo. And also, I'm going to find Automobilista 2 logo and go to images, and if we can grab a PNG, that would be best because that'll have a transparent background, so we can save that as save image as AMS2 logo. We can save that and then bring it into our report with a transparent background. That's always good. So I'm gonna add these two images. I don't even remember where I put it. Let's see. There we are. Okay, there's the AMS2 logo. So see, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a transparent logo, which means I'm gonna have some Automobilista 2 here, and then let's go ahead and insert the Sim Racing Telemetry logo as well. We're gonna make that smaller and smaller this way. Ooh, that's not actually super, doesn't look like it's super transparent, but that's okay. So here, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna have a multi-row card. Instead of these two cards, we're just gonna have a multi-row card. So I'm gonna change this visual to be here, a multi-row card, and that is right here, multi-row card. And then here we're gonna add the car to it as well. So hopefully we can actually bring in some labels as well. Or we could just make this stuff smaller. So let's go ahead and just make that stuff smaller. Here's the more options area. I'm going to change the category label. Nope, I'm going to change the callout value to be something like 14. That way I can shrink this, copy and paste it. Oh, that didn't seem to work, did it? There we go, copy and paste it. Oh, that's still not small enough, is it? There we are. And let's get the alignment right. Let's get this one to align with the bottom. Okay, so you can see here it's not doing too well. So what we're gonna do is just bring it down and then bring this one down to 12 as well. And we will change the label as well to be 8. And 8. That's still not small enough. So let's just try to see if we can make this a multi-row card. So here we have a multi-row, nope, we have visual. God, I'll never get used to the way Power BI does this. Now, I actually at work, I have it set to the old version, which is, it just shows in the pane here. Apparently they're just gonna make this permanent, so I'm trying to get used to it, but it's not very easy. Okay, so that's the car. Now we need the track. Just dragged it in there. And is this going to let me make it a 2-row? I think it would. Cards, style. God, it's not going to let me. It's not going to let me. Size and style? No. It just doesn't let me put them next to each other. Maybe if I do this. Wow, that is just terrible. Come on, really? Divider, spacing, no, that's the title. You know what? I bet you that's what the new card visual is for. Let's try adding one. So to do that, we're going to, I don't know how to add new visuals now. Wow. We're just going to insert and see if we can find a new card visual. Card new, that's the one. Okay, so we bring it up here, we add it, track ID, and also the car ID. We'll add it as well. And let's see if we can style this thing a little bit better now. We go to the formatting options and go to more options. Now we should be able to change the layout to one between cards and vertical. Wow, is it really not going to let us do anything? That's very frustrating. Okay, so the reference labels, we're going to change up to something like 10. Nope, the reference labels, the cards themselves. Can I do anything to make this actually show? Call out is 10 and the label is 10. Wow. That looks terrible. So I'm gonna stick with this. I think I'm spending way too much time on this tiny little detail here, so I'm gonna move along. And I'm just gonna go here, change this to be smaller. And same thing here. Yep, to 9. And now everything more or less fits, right? Oh God. Okay. Wow, I can't believe that this won't fit. What about the padding. Maybe I can change the padding to be 1, 1, 1, and 1. Okay, that looks a lot better. So I'm gonna actually take this and copy the format. Oh, how do you copy the format now? There we go. Just click it and then the format painter and put it up here. And now it has the same one. So now both of these say Brands Hatch. I'm gonna change this to car ID up here. Or I thought I was going to. I have to do that right here. And say car. And I have to change the label too. Car. Okay, I guess I have to press enter to actually make it work. Car, enter. Okay. Oh, no, I said vehicle earlier, right? So I'm just gonna say vehicle. Okay, what else can we grab? Let's do another one of these line graphs, or possibly a bar chart, but we'll have to see. Brake. Am I able, if I drag in the brake, that's an interesting thing to say. So what was the maximum brake applied? 1, I guess. Oh, 100% braking. That's super cool. Per lap. And the minimum amount of braking per lap was no braking. Oh, okay. I would love to apply something like, obviously this braking goes from 0 to 1 and all sorts of stuff in between, like how much percent of brake did you do? And I really want to do something like have my have it be something like, this has to be a decimal, where the minimum value is 0 and the maximum value is 1. I would love to format that. So let's see if I can do that by saying in the y-axis, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and revert the inversion and say the minimum is -1 and the maximum is 2. That way we have a good gauge here. Now, I want to say that I can maybe switch this to average. So let's try average instead of the minimum or max. And now we have a little bit more to work with. We have a trend line for our braking. Maybe we set the Y values to be slightly less, the min and max for the y-axis, maybe we set that to be a little bit less crazy. So we're going to set the range to minus 0.5 and the maximum to 1.5, and that allows us to zoom in a little bit. You can also turn on something called the zoom slider, which means you can actually really dig into these fractions right here and see how they go. We're going to leave that all the way at the top. But this should be the average brake pressure. Unless this is just like brake on or off. I'm going to have to talk to the folks at SRT as well to see if I can get a better understanding of that. Let's call that brake pressure question mark. I assumed it was anywhere from 0 to 1 as far as like 100%. This is the average, which means 10% braking. I don't think that can be right. So we'll just leave it like this. And then let's see if we can explore the data and get a little bit more stuff here. Fuel. Oh, okay. The fuel. Fuel for each lap. That's an easy one. We're going to put that right here along the bottom and stretch it out a little bit. And we'll drag in the fuel. And then we're going to remove the brake pressure and, sorry, the race position. So again, this needs to be inverted because I copied from here and inverted is bad here. So I'm going to say, go to more options, go to y-axis and turn off the inversion. Okay, so here we have fuel by lap. So sum of fuel, probably maximum fuel is what I want, because again, it captures data every 5 seconds. So you definitely don't want to get the sum of this. You always want to be careful to get the min or the max. So we're just going to go with min. Min. Okay, so fuel in liters by lap. That way we can see we were losing an average of, this would be a calculation that you'd be able to make actually, how much fuel is lost per lap, right? So lap 1, I had 44 liters of fuel. Lap 2, I had 42. So I'm losing about 2 liters, it seems, per lap, 2 point something liters per lap. That's pretty cool. I'm going to turn on a trend line here, or some sort of line. Reference line? No. You could turn on the reference line of like, hey, this is minimum fuel you want to have during a race. So if I wanted to, I could say like, hey, this is going to be a constant line on the x-axis, and I'm going to have it be like red and say you never want to go less than 10 liters. Should be y-axis. You never want to go less than 10 liters, or something like, hey, you never want to go less than 15 liters. Oh, how about something that crosses? So let's say 25 liters. You never want to go less than 25 liters. So this will give you a constant line of 25. So you know what lap you crossed that threshold. We crossed it in lap 10. And if that wasn't a good thing, I would know that at least before lap 10, I have to manage my fuel a lot better. Okay, and then one more little thing to fill this space, I guess. Let's find one more engine torque, engine warning, handbrake. I don't use that, so luckily I'm okay. RPM per lap, speed limiter, steering. I want something about times. Oh, track temperature by lap. That's cool. We can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make this a little bit smaller. Make this guy a little bit smaller as well. And see if we can stick one more visual down here and call it track temperature by lap. So we already have the by lap and we're just stealing from that, right? That's really easy to do. So what was it? Track temperature. Yeah. So we're going to show a little bit of a trick here. So you can do we'll go ahead and remove the race position by adding the track temp. So let's find the track temp. Add that to the bottom, remove this, and then say minimum track temperature per lap. So now we have track temp, and this is probably Celsius, right? So let's see if we can find in the tutorial, does it give us any reference points for it? Lap distance, lap time. There's a couple cool things I wanna do here, but it looks like no. Temp. I think you can actually have it measured. Here we go. Meters per second, kilometers per hour. I want to say that the track temp was Celsius. Let's try to open up this tab and make sure. Kelvin. Interesting. Okay. Kelvin. Temperature in Kelvin. So here's where we would go here, and we would say Kelvin to Celsius formula or conversion. I really don't know. We'll find out though. If my Bing, every time I try to use Bing, it just disappoints me. Kelvin to Celsius formula. Thanks, Bing. Okay. Celsius equals the Kelvin minus 200. That just doesn't make sense. It has to be Celsius. Celsius to Fahrenheit. So we'll just do Celsius to Fahrenheit right here. This is the formula for Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, yeah. So it's going to be whatever Celsius times 9 divided by 5 plus 32. Let's give that a shot and see if it works. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the track temp and I'm going to create a formula or a new column. And just like Excel, I would say track temp, we'll call it track temp. I don't like using underscores, but I'll just do it so it stays next to it. Track temp Fahrenheit equals whatever the track temp in Celsius is. So I'll look at track temp times 9 divided by 5, and we want to make sure that the 9 divided by 5 happens first, so we're putting it here in the in parentheses, and then add 32 to that, and that should give us the track temp in Fahrenheit. So we got to make sure we put that in parentheses as well. All right, so hopefully this does something. To test out my formulas in my grid, I always do something like, let me bring in track temperature, put that in a table, get the minimum or the maximum, 43 degrees Celsius, and then see what that is when I add my Fahrenheit. And I'll get the max as well, 109 degrees. That sounds about right. That's pretty hot for Brands Hatch, but it really does sound about right for a really sunny day, which is what I had at Brands Hatch. So I'm gonna go with that. So here's what we want to do is we want to allow folks, where is my Power BI? Oh, I wasn't in Power BI. Oh, it's like amateur hour here. So okay, so I want folks to be able to use Celsius if they need to, but I also want them to be able to see it in Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do is put together something called a fields parameter in Power BI. This allows you to change units of measurement. And you really want to be able to do this with something like race data, because there's some folks that just think in metric. There's some folks that think in Fahrenheit, and the difference between kilometers and miles is just sometimes difficult for folks. So you want to give them an option to go back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a fields parameter, and I'm going to go to data. Is it in data? Man, wherever Power BI puts it, like every month they just change. So I'm going to insert, and I'm going to say I want a fields parameter. Where the heck are you, fields parameter? Oh, modeling, new parameter, fields. This will allow me to pick between the temperature in Celsius and Fahrenheit. So we'll call this P track temp units. Let's do that. And I'm going to create it. And now I have a slicer here. Now you'll notice that this doesn't do anything, right? It's just nothing here. Nothing's changing. It's because I have to go to this particular graph here and add that field's value instead. You'll notice that it's now here. I have to add that unit here. And when I do that, I need to click here, open this up, and instead of track temp C, I'm going to actually add P track temp units and remove this. And hopefully, oh, of course, it didn't do anything. Did it? Super. It's going to make me look like an idiot. And I really want pizza, so I want to fix this. Let's see. Okay, so this might have to be minimum. and maximum. Or let's just say max. Let's see if we can do max. Max, and surround this with max as well. I think I should be able to get that going. No, now I just can't even display the visual. Okay, so let's just completely erase this guy. Delete from model, yes. And we're gonna do it old school. So the way we used to do this back in the olden days is we used to have a bookmark. So I have my track temperature here, and I'm gonna add it and see what's falling off. There we go. Okay, so what I want is the maximum track temperature, which is right here, but this one is in Celsius. So track temp degrees C. Okay, so I am going to create a completely different visual and have that be track temp in Fahrenheit instead. Track temp degrees F. And I'm going to do the minimum, I think. It's supposed to do the, no, the maximum. It doesn't really matter. It's by lap, so there's only a very small degree of temperatures that it will change over the course of one lap anyway. So you can see that it went from 98 degrees in lap 0 all the way to 109 degrees by lap 13. And you can see the change there too. This, I'm gonna go ahead and invert the range as well, because higher temperatures are more dramatic, or we wanna show higher temperatures higher on the scale. Same thing for this guy, we're gonna invert the range. And I'm just gonna pop this guy right on top of it. So here, I'm gonna create a bookmark. This is where we could get a little bit fancy, and we're gonna look at our bookmark pane, which is somewhere here. There we go, our bookmarks pane. So, why am I doing this? Well, it's because I wanna be able to give the user, be able to switch between the two. So I'm gonna say, here it is by degrees Fahrenheit. And to do that, I also need to open up my selection pane. And it doesn't let me open them at the same time. That's fantastic. So I'm gonna click on the C, and I'm actually gonna hide the visual. Then I'm gonna go back to my bookmarks pane, and I'm gonna add a bookmark and say, double click on this and say, this is Fahrenheit. And then I'm going to go back to my selection pane, hide the Fahrenheit, and open up the Celsius. And so now you can see the Celsius one. I'm going to add a bookmark and say Celsius. And you can actually build this bookmark to say metric or imperial instead, and that'll switch everything. If you put everything correctly, it'll actually switch everything. So I can do like fuels in gallons instead, and that would switch it too, which I'll do a little bit later because I'm way too hungry. So to test this out, I'm going to click Fahrenheit, and bam, you can see track Fahrenheit, and now Celsius. Fahrenheit, Celsius. But how do I allow the user to do it? Because the user won't have access to this. Well, first I'm going to save because I'm a good noodle and I don't want to lose this and be frustrated. And then I'm going to insert a button, navigator, bookmark navigator. And I'm going to make this kind of small and put it right here. Fahrenheit and Celsius. And now, when I switch between them, it's not doing anything. Oh, because I have to tie them in. So let's see if I can tie them in. Celsius, Fahrenheit. Okay. Celsius, Fahrenheit. There we go. So I'm going to go to the format here and just make sure that I don't have to do a control click or anything. You won't have to do it online, so I want to make sure that you don't have to here either. Okay, Fahrenheit and Celsius. So you can see that it shifts. If I wanted to, I could do the fuels liters. Man, I just can't leave this stream without doing that. So let's do that as our last thing. Then we'll put this title in, and then we're good to go for our very first endeavor here. So I have another one, which is liters to gallons formula. Google's pretty good in that it gives you divide the volume value by 3.75. Okay. So I'm going to go to the fuel, and then I'm going to say a new column, and I'm going to call it fuel gallons. Oh, and it's giving me an issue because there's no actual formula. Fuel gallons equals fuel divided by this. Is it divided by? Divided volume, yeah. Liters, oh, and add a comment here, liters divided by this. And close the comment. Now it should be good. Okay, so again, I'm going to copy and paste this visual. I'm going to put it right on top of it, and then I'm going to open it up in the formatter, or in the fields, and I'm going to change this to fuel in gallons. And I'm going to right click on it and say maximum, and I'm going to remove the liters, and I'm just going to say fuel in gallons by lap. And that is very weird. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, okay, the liters. Okay, so I had 13 gallons to start, so I have a reference line here, which I definitely want to change to be the gallons based one. So here I'm going to say anything below 7 gallons is bad, and that'll give me the crossover. I could, if I wanted to, just get the exact number based on, I don't know, whatever I use, 15 or something, but I'm just going to go with 7. It's an arbitrary number, and I can do that. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and change these bookmarks to be called metric and imperial. This one's imperial and metric. You could also just call it like F/gal or something like that for Fahrenheit and gallons, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to change those, and now you can see I still scroll through, but the other one that changes is this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and add this here, or click on that, go to the selection pane, and now we can see the track temp, the fuel gallons by lap and fuel liters by lap. I'm going to go ahead and for the Fahrenheit, I'm going to hide the liters fuel, and then I'm going to go back to my bookmarks and update the imperial. So I'll say update, then I'll go to the selection pane again. I will unhide liters, hide gallons, unhide Celsius, and hide Fahrenheit. Then I can see liters and Celsius is showing. I'm going to right click, update my metric, and now when I switch from imperial to imperial, I can see Fahrenheit and gallons. When I switch to metric, I can see liters and Celsius. Okay, so that is the last of the updates I'm going to make. Again, this was a bit of an exploratory one, but I end up hanging out here. Race report, we'll call this race report. Race analysis. If I could spell analysis, there we go. And I'm going to make this slightly bigger. So we'll put it at like 16. Take away the background, which I can do somewhere around here. Man, where is the formatter for this thing? This is so frustrating. Format. Right click and format. That's the way to go. Size and style. We're going to remove the background here. And we're going to, okay, I guess, race analysis. Automobilista 2 race analysis. And we will make this a lot bigger, 18. And we will change this to be a little bit lower as well and bring it, nope, not that guy. We're going to go back to our selection pane because apparently the text box was too There we go. And we're going to say race analysis, like that. And we're going to extend these out, make them a little bit nicer, extend this guy out as well, make it nice. And extend this guy all the way out to the floor. And now we have a lap by lap analysis where you can see if I include multiple laps. Oh, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So let's change the format of this slicer really quick to make sure that the behavior allows you to select multiple. I don't want to show a select all, I guess. Okay, so here, now I can select, I want to see just laps 4, 5, 6, and 7. Here's my data for just laps 4, 5, 6, and 7. If I want to see the starting laps 1 and 2, and then just the middle, and then at the end, I can also see that, so I can cut away the excess laps. So that's pretty cool. And then if I ever just want to reset that, I should be able to just hit the eraser here, and everything will go back to start. So, all right, here was a quick report using Sim Racing Telemetry's data. I hope you were able to see the capabilities of this app, and also the fact that you yourself can just write these reports or create these reports on your own using their data. So hopefully I will be able to stream a little bit more on the data side of this in the coming week. Maybe I'll do another mix of the two like I just did now, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining, and have a great one.